A Christmas tradition in which families buy this scary little elf to put in their home is the elf on the shelf. This elf is said to watch Santa's kids every day as a spy to see who's naughty or good. But these elves are naughty themselves, as they have set fire to their owners' homes and played nasty pranks. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Top 11. Today we're going to go over the Top 11 Dark Elf on the Shelf stories. Make sure to watch until number 1, because it's one of the creepiest stories you'll ever hear. Number 11. Reappearing Elf. This one is a true story, said the person who posted it on Reddit. They were unboxing all of their Christmas decorations one day during the holiday season, trying to decorate and get in the festive mood, but when going through their boxes, they found their elf was missing on a shelf. Apparently, they still put in its original packaging so that the little toy wouldn't get misplaced, but it wasn't at all in the box this year. They gave up after looking for several minutes and only decorated the house without it, but a few days later, the elf unexpectedly turned up in plain sight on top of some boxes. This person looked for this elf literally all over, and then it magically appeared right in front of his eyes. That is pretty scary. If you ask me, those things are cursed. Number 10. The Living Doll. This story surrounds an elf on the shelf that would move on its own without being pushed by a family member. Now, the father was only thinking that his family would be playing mind games with him every morning, and the elf would be in a new location, but they all promised they wouldn't touch it. One night, the father decided to set up the dog cam and pointed it the next day directly at the elf, being fed up with this. The elf had moved, of course, and his family vowed again that they had not touched it. Dad went to check the video, believing that he captured his family moving the elf. But he noticed something very horrifying, that the footage showed the doll moving on its own, that his family was right. They didn't touch it. Everybody was alive and moved by themselves. Number 9. The Whispers. Children have a wild imagination, so it's quite natural for some parents not always to believe what their children tell them, especially if what they say sounds unlikely. This young girl screamed out to her mother one night, telling her that she woke up on the shelf with the elf whispering terrible stuff in her ear. The mother just shrugged it off, of course, and told her that she was having a nightmare, but it kept happening. After hearing a creepy voice whispering in her ear, the girl would sometimes wake up crying. The doll would have told her to do things such as injure her sister or her friends. The mother began to fear, so one night she wanted to sleep in the same bed as her daughter, and sure enough, she woke up to the sound of someone breathing into her ear about 3 a.m. She turned, and the elf lay on the shelf next to her. Number 8. The Invisible Voices. The next story is pretty scary. So, one day in mid-December, when their Amazon Alexa began going off by itself, the family was surprised. It spoke as if someone else talked to it, but there was no one in the room. They dismissed it initially, assuming it was just some sort of glitch, but this happened a few times a day. Alexa would start saying scary things like, "I'm sorry, I can't find any results for 'I'm coming for you,' or 'I can't find any results to take me off this shelf.'" When they heard the last one, they noticed the elf on the shelf was right next to Alexa, so they thought the elf was a feeling somehow and could communicate with Alexa. So, there you go, maybe Alexa can interact with ghosts. Number 7. The Family Tradition. A little girl named Jenna, her older sister, and her family is surrounded by this creepy story. So, part of the custom of her family is to still put the elf up on the shelf. Jenna believes that the elf is genuine and that it really moves by itself. And they woke up one morning to discover that the elf had been moved, yet it had not been touched by anyone. Mum just had no idea where the elf was going because she was usually the one who was going to move it. The mother was afraid of how Jenna would react to the missing elf. Still, this made her so happy. She told her family that she had spoken to the elf last night and told her to go check in with her older sister, who was around an hour away from them, and surely, when the sister woke up, the elf was sitting on top of her coffee machine in her home. This freaked everyone out, of course particularly the sister, who was too afraid even to move the toy. So she gave him a treat at night and spoke to him. She said, "I think Jenna really needs you, so take this Santa cookie and then go back home, please." Believe it or not, the next day, the elf, a cookie in hand, was back at Jenna's place. Number 6. The Possession. So, for some reason, ghosts or demons, especially dolls, love to own children's toys. So, the next couple wanted to order an elf on the shelf online as a joke. Still, instead of buying it from, they wanted to buy it from the dark web, like Walmart or Target. The doll on the shelf was advertised as a possessed elf. They thought it was a smart idea to buy this one, honestly. What do you know, paranormal things began to happen after opening it and putting it on their shelf as seriously as they wanted this elf to haunt them for months anyway. It certainly ruined their vacation season, but that's what you get, too. Number 5. The Prankster Elf. This next family possessed an elf on the shelf that was quite the troublemaker. They'd go to bed, and one time the next day, their house would be a mess, their dog's food bowl knocked all over the floor. Another time they discovered thumbtacks scattered all over the floor. Another time they discovered a bottle of wine knocked over and poured all over. Still, everyone in the family denies that they made any of these jokes now that their dog will just do this. They just found it odd how they would find the elf nearby at any prank scene, whether it was their family just playing with them or an elf alive on the shelf. Number 4. The Fires. Don't mess with these elves because tradition says they can set fire to your house. So there's this weird tale out there that says a bunch of family homes spontaneously caught on fire one Christmas in 2010. When firefighters investigated, they found that upon entering their house, every home had one thing in common, and they found their elf in great condition on the shelf in the middle of the house. The floor would have been burned and burnt, but the elf would have remained untouched somehow. Very strange. So it is suspected that the evil elves may have had something to do with the flames. Number 3. The Family of Elves. So, you cannot touch it according to the directions that come with the elf on the shelf. If you do, the elf loses its charm, or something along those lines. It's simply a way for parents to deny the elves ever travel, but in this story, a naughty little boy ended up breaking these rules and the next day reached for the elf. The boy was nowhere to be found, and there was another mini elf on the shelf in addition to the elf. The elf looked terribly bad this time, as the missing boy's days went by and the family started to worry. That's why, while cleaning the fireplace the next day, Dad accidentally touched the elf, and he went missing too. Now, on the fireplace mantle, there were 3 elves. The elf looked a lot like this dad. The whole family of 5 finally went missing, and when the police searched them, they discovered 5 elves on the mantle, one for each family member. Number 2. The elf on a shelf with a knife. So, once there were 2 brothers. One brother was pretty naughty, and every round of the year would cause trouble, but he tried to behave nicely during the holidays, knowing that his grandmother had an elf on the shelf and was watching him. He tried, therefore, to behave nicely so that the elf would report back to Santa, claiming he was a good boy. That was until one day when they knocked over the tree. He and his brother Neil were fighting. They broke some ornaments. The boy was horrified because there was an elf watching it happen. Then he took things into his own hands. He ended up killing his brother and skinned his face. With his brother's face mask, he went up to the elf and began to apologize and take responsibility for the accident when his grandma came home, screamed fakely, and said that Neil's death was an accident. The story ends with a child being locked away for Christmas in the hospital, but he's not angry about it. Number 1. Pennywise the Elf. I can certainly do elves now, but not when they look like the clown of my literal dreams and lucid nightmares, which is exactly what this one is. Like this, the elf is sitting straight up in the fireplace with a face that might kill. Not only did the parents who had put this one up want their children, they wanted their children to be afraid of them right away, of Santa Claus, of being evil. They tried to make their children regret every single negative thing they had ever done. Who made this, even? Where do you even get an elf like that? This elf has eaten other kids and will eat the kids of whichever house it's in now, so don't say I didn't freaking warn you. So there you have it, top 11 dark elf on the shelf stories. Do let us know which one of them did you find spectacular in the comment section. Please subscribe to the Top 11 YouTube channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our amazing videos. Check out this playlist of my personal favorite videos on this channel about some really crazy and interesting clips of the best top 11 videos on YouTube. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.